Greetings, Trekkers and Trekkers, and welcome to another edition of Remembering Star Trek. And today, we continue to look at the Next Generation film franchise with Star Trek First Contact, which makes sense because today is First Contact Day. Well, even though it doesn't happen until 2063, still, that's when it's supposed to happen, so there you go. Anyway, so I believe that this was the first Star Trek movie that I ever saw in theaters, and to be perfectly honest, when I watched this movie with my dad, I loved it. It was so freaking amazing. It was just like, boom. This movie made me into a fan of the Star Trek movies because, like I said, this was the first one that I ever saw in theaters ever, and it just blew my mind at how awesome it was. So, yeah, so basically what happens in this movie is that the crew of the Enterprise E, because Enterprise D got pretty beat up in Generations, they find out that the Borg are coming to Earth, but they're ordered by the Federation to stay away. Like, they can't go anywhere near the action. And the reason for that is because of everything that Picard went through in the two-parter Best of Both Worlds, and they're afraid that it might trigger something like PTSD in Picard. So that's why they don't want the Enterprise to be anywhere near the action. But unfortunately, the Enterprise crew's like, you know what? Screw it. We're gonna defy orders. We're gonna go there. We're gonna kick ass and take names. And when they get there, the battle it's just been devastating. And to make matters worse, after they destroy the Borg cube, we see the Borg sphere, and the Borg are like, okay, you know what? We're gonna do what we should have done a long time ago. We're gonna travel back in time and prevent the Federation from ever, happening and stuff like that. So we're going to go back in time and we're going to prevent First Contact from ever happening. We're going to make sure that Zefram Cochrane gets killed. We're going to destroy his warp ship, the Phoenix, so that way, First Contact between humans and the Vulcans will never happen. But the Emperor's crew, they go back in time, like I said, they kick ass, they take names. It's awesome. And this was the first Star Trek movie which I felt like the franchise was leaning more towards being action oriented. There were like action movies and stuff like that, explosions, beating up the bad guys. I mean, it was the 90s, so there you go. But yeah, so is there anything about this movie that I don't like? Well, sort of. I wouldn't say this is something that I hate. It's just a minor thing, but a lot of people compare this movie to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. There's that whole revenge subplot and whatnot, but to me, it does make sense. It makes a lot more sense than when they did it in Star Trek Nemesis or in Star Trek Into Darkness. Like, this movie, to me, felt like the Next Generation equivalent of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That to me is why I feel like this movie did it better than Nemesis or Star Trek Into Darkness. Because of that whole revenge theme, they quote Moby Dick. Excuse me. There's even a point where Alfred Wood's character Lily refers to Captain Picard as Captain Ahab, and ultimately Picard realizes that yeah, she's right. I am sort of doing this mainly because I'm motivated by revenge. I need to step back and think about what I'm doing here. So that to me was definitely the turning point of the movie, in which Picard decided, you know what, I'm going to drop this whole revenge thing. It's not going to be about revenge anymore. It's going to be about, saving the Earth, saving humanity, and defeating the Borg, and da-da-da-da, but I'm not going to let my personal feelings get in the way of this anymore. So, there you go. But yeah, other than that, I definitely feel like this is a really, really enjoyable movie. However, I think that in order to enjoy this movie, you definitely need to watch The Best of Both Worlds two-parter from Next Generation, as well as another Next Generation episode that I talked about called I, Borg, in which Picard meets the Borg drone, who ultimately decides to break away from the collective. I mean, he's given his own name and stuff like that. He's ultimately called Hugh, and he's a great character. And I definitely think that character ultimately, I wouldn't say he was the inspiration for Seven of Nine, but there are some similarities between the two. I don't know if you feel that way. If so or not, then feel free to voice your opinion about that in the comments section below. So there you go. Alright, so next week, Remembering Star Trek continues with Star Trek Insurrection. Now, this is a movie that some people like, some people don't like. I know that there's a certain comic book reviewer out there who does not like this movie. I'm not going to name his name, but if you know who I'm talking about, then yeah. But, well, if that certain reviewer ends up watching that video, well then, I might have a little bit of a disagreement with you on that movie, so sorry. I know you don't like it, but I think it's actually pretty good. Again, that's just your opinion, and I'm not going to disagree with you on that, so there you go. Anyway, so yeah, so thank you guys so much for your continued support. I honestly could not do what I do without you, and tune in next week as Remembering Star Trek will continue with Star Trek Insurrection. So until then, have an awesome kick-ass First Contact Day, and live long and prosper.